Okay, so we've selected the documents that we are going to import. We've decided that these are all going to be loose file type emails. So just to make sure, when we go back to sources, we're going to make sure that these are all loose file documents, which is good. Our doc ID is set properly. This is the right custodian. And we're going to move to the settings. So let's walk through some of these that are important. We're not going to go through all of these because most of these aren't necessarily important for what we're doing, but compound documents is. And compound documents deal with documents that are embedded in other documents. So for example, if you have a PowerPoint and you have an Excel chart that's embedded in there, it actually has the entire Excel file embedded in there, and it's just showing that specific graph, which is really important when it comes to producing documents to the other side. So if you want to produce all the supporting documents from that PowerPoint, then you should enable compound document extraction on all supported file types. Otherwise, I typically do disable compound document extraction. It's really important. My attorneys don't like entire Excel documents being produced out to opposing counsel when only a small portion of that was actually relevant to the case. So make sure that you talk with your attorneys about that if you are producing documents like PowerPoints or videos that have embedded documents into them, things along those lines. Deduplication is really also important in reducing the amount of documents that you have to review and how you have to process. There are a couple different ways that you can do it, whether it's within custodian or at a global level or a case level, as they say. So we want to enable duplicate distraction or detection. Typically MD5 hash or SHA-1 is fine. That's the industry standards. Either will work. For this, we're going to just set it at a case level, and we are going to exclude do not log record or copy file. Okay. In the include attachment hashes in the email metadata hash, this is because email isn't necessarily hashed by itself originally. The PST is, which is the main file that holds all the individual emails, but the individual emails or the MSG files, they are not. So it's asking if you want to use the hash values from the attachments in the email hash, which I do not do. For email, a lot of this is, preference. For the metadata, I typically like to save them as MSGs. More often than not, I don't typically import a lot of this stuff unless I know for certain, or I've talked with the attorneys, or I've talked with the clients about the types of things that exist in there. Usually the contacts aren't important, and if they're a business person or a salesperson, they're likely to have, hundreds if not thousands of contacts. So make sure that you pay attention to this. The exclusions exclude mail stores from eDoc processing. All this means is that if it is a mail store like a PST or an NSF, it won't process it as an eDoc or a loose file. It will say it's a container for emails, and so it won't be included in this set of data. We have not put it in here, so it's not a big deal. All our files are loose files, so we shouldn't hit on anything. Exclude empty files, 0-byte files, definitely important. If there's nothing in there, then it's not relevant to process or review. We also have the ability to limit by date range or by file types. And then we can also change the time zone selection. So for example, if you wanted to process everything to one specific time zone, you can do that. If the base company is in California, for example, and you're getting emails from New York, you can convert everything over to the Los Angeles or California time zone. For NISTing, usually we enable the NIST filter, or the process is called as denisting. We don't have that hooked up here. You have to download the database of all those registry entries, and that will work fine. But for the purpose of what it is, we don't have any of those files anyway, so it doesn't make a big difference. On output, we want to use source name as top level folder, ensure root output folder is unique in law. Make sure that we're performing full text indexing. I don't typically do the TIFFing simply from a standpoint that if you're doing 10,000 documents and you have a lot of Excel documents, which there are Excel documents in here, if you've ever printed out Excel documents, they can be anywhere from 1 page all the way up to, I've seen 20,000 pages for one Excel. So to save space and to save time, which is usually both issues, I typically convert documents to TIFF when it's time for production. Last thing is TIFF or text extraction. We definitely want to enable text extraction because text extraction allows you for searching. So I enable it and then I validate it to the extracted text. Once things are set, I typically lock the settings, and this way if somebody else is working on the case behind me, they know exactly what it's supposed to be and they can't change those things without physically going in and unlocking the settings. Okay, once that's set, we hit start. We get a confirmation of all our settings. Make sure you go through these to make sure that it's exactly what you want it to be and click OK. And as you can see, this moves pretty quickly because it's, again, on a local system. But already you can see that there are 104 duplicates that were already taken out. So while we started with 223, we actually finished with 119 records, which makes it much more quicker for the attorneys to review.